In the 1950s, every kitchen had its secrets. The first thing every housewife knew was how to make butter last twice as long by whipping it with milk, a little trick that was a sign of the times. It was an era of ingenuity and making the most of what you had, especially during the holidays. The holiday table was a canvas, and the food was a masterpiece of planning, preparation, and love. It was a time when a simple can of cranberry sauce could be transformed into a glistening jewel-toned centerpiece, and a humble can of condensed soup could become the secret ingredient in a dozen different casseroles. The holidays were a time for family, for togetherness, and for food that was both comforting and a little bit magical. One of the most iconic dishes of the era was the glorious, show-stopping molded salad. These weren't your simple side salads of today. These were architectural marvels, shimmering towers of gelatin filled with everything from fruit cocktail and miniature marshmallows to shredded carrots and even, on occasion, savory ingredients like tuna or chicken. A Christmas table wasn't complete without a festive red and green layered gelatin salad, perhaps a stained glass Jell-O with its colorful cubes suspended in a creamy white base. It was a dish that was as much about presentation as it was about taste, a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness of the mid-century homemaker. The holiday feasts of the 1950s and 60s were a parade of flavors and textures, a mix of the traditional and the trendy. The centerpiece of the meal was often a magnificent roasted turkey, its skin burnished to a perfect golden brown, or a glistening glazed ham, studded with cloves and pineapple rings. But the supporting cast of side dishes was just as important. There were creamy, dreamy mashed potatoes, whipped with butter and milk until they were light as a cloud. There were sweet potato casseroles, topped with a fluffy blanket of toasted marshmallows or a crunchy pecan crumble. And of course, there were the casseroles. So many casseroles. Green bean casserole, made with canned green beans and cream of mushroom soup, topped with crispy fried onions, was a holiday staple. Broccoli and Velveeta cheese casserole, with its rich, creamy sauce and buttery cracker topping, was another crowd pleaser. These were dishes that were designed to be made ahead, to be served to a crowd, and to be pure, unadulterated comfort food. Appetizers were a whole other world of culinary creativity. Before the main event, guests would be treated to a dazzling array of canapés and finger foods. Deviled eggs, their yolks whipped to a creamy perfection and piped back into the whites, were a must-have. There were stuffed celery sticks filled with cream cheese and pimentos, and tiny cocktail meatballs, simmering in a sweet and sour sauce in a chafing dish. Salmon mousse piped onto cucumber slices and hot crab dip, bubbling away in a fondue pot, were considered the height of sophistication. And let's not forget the cheese ball, a glorious sphere of cream cheese, cheddar, and seasonings, rolled in chopped nuts and served with an assortment of crackers. The art of the canapé reached its peak during these decades. Hostesses would spend hours creating tiny works of art on crackers and toast points. There were olive and cream cheese pinwheels, rolled thin and sliced to reveal perfect spirals. Pimiento stuffed olives were wrapped in cream cheese and rolled in chopped pecans, creating bite-sized morsels that were as beautiful as they were delicious. Shrimp cocktail was served in individual glasses, the pink crustaceans hanging elegantly over the rim, accompanied by a tangy cocktail sauce. For the more adventurous, there were rumaki, chicken livers and water chestnuts wrapped in bacon and broiled until crispy, a dish that seemed impossibly exotic at the time. The drinks were just as important as the food. A proper holiday party required a well-stocked bar cart, gleaming with crystal decanters and silver cocktail shakers. The French 75, with its elegant combination of gin and champagne, was the height of sophistication. Hot mulled cider simmered on the stove, filling the house with the warm scents of cinnamon and cloves. And for the children, there was always a special punch, often made with ginger ale and sherbet, served in a beautiful crystal punch bowl with floating ice rings filled with cranberries and mint leaves. It was a time of entertaining with flair, of making every guest feel special from the moment they walked in the door. Desserts were the grand finale, the sweet conclusion to a memorable meal. While traditional pies like apple and pumpkin were always on the menu, The mid-century also saw the rise of some truly spectacular creations. The chocolate angel food cake, light as air and drizzled with a rich chocolate glaze, was a popular choice. Plum pudding, a dense, dark, and boozy confection, was a Christmas tradition inherited from across the pond. And then there were the cookies. So many cookies. Spritz cookies, pressed into festive shapes, sugar cookies, decorated with colorful icing and sprinkles, and of course the iconic peanut butter blossoms, with a Hershey's Kiss nestled in the center. The cookie exchange was a cherished tradition of the era. Neighbors and friends would gather in early December, each bringing dozens of their specialty cookies to trade. There were delicate butter cookies, cut into stars and trees and dusted with colored sugar. Gingerbread men with their raisin eyes and icing smiles stood in formation on cooling racks. Fruitcake cookies, dense with candied fruits and nuts, were soaked in rum or brandy for weeks before serving. And the divinity candy, white and fluffy as fresh snow, was a testament to the baker's skill. It could only be made on dry days, when the humidity was just right. The centerpiece dessert was often something truly spectacular. A baked Alaska, with its towering meringue peaks browned to perfection, was the ultimate showstopper. Trifles layered in glass bowls to show off their colorful strata of cake, custard, and fruit were both beautiful and delicious. The tunnel of fudge cake, with its mysterious hollow center filled with rich chocolate, was a marvel of mid-century baking technology. And for those who wanted something a little different, there was always the pineapple upside-down cake, with its caramelized fruit glistening like jewels against the golden cake. Baking was a labor of love, a way to fill the house with the warm, comforting sense of the season. So how did they do it all? How did the mid-century housewife, without the benefit of modern gadgets and gizmos, manage to produce such elaborate and delicious holiday feasts? The answer lies in a combination of careful planning, clever techniques, and a whole lot of hard work. The holiday meal wasn't something that was thrown together at the last minute. It was a meticulously planned operation, with lists and schedules and a clear division of labor. The December issues of magazines like Good Housekeeping and Ladies' Home Journal were filled with detailed meal plans and timelines, helping the busy homemaker to be out of the kitchen and in on the fun. Make-ahead dishes were the secret weapon in the mid-century holiday arsenal. Salads, like the 24-hour salad, were made the day before. Desserts, like the gelatin molds and ice cream, were prepared well in advance. Even the main course was often designed to be partially cooked ahead of time. The oven was a workhorse, with multiple dishes being baked at once to save time and energy. A cherry pie for dessert might be slipped into the oven alongside the scalloped potatoes for the main course. The freezer was another essential tool. Homemakers would bake 2 cakes at once, freezing one for later, or scoop ice cream into individual servings ahead of time, ready to be plated at a moment's notice. But it wasn't all about convenience. The mid-century housewife was also a master of from-scratch cooking. Breads and rolls were often homemade, filling the house with their irresistible aroma. Sauces and gravies were made from pan drippings, not from a jar. And while processed ingredients like canned soups and Velveeta cheese were embraced for their convenience, they were often incorporated into dishes that were otherwise made from scratch. It was a balancing act, a blend of the old and the new, the traditional and the modern. The kitchen itself was a different world. There were no microwaves for quick reheating, no food processors for effortless chopping. Instead, there were hand mixers and rotary egg beaters, vegetable peelers, and hand-cranked meat grinders. The refrigerator was smaller, and the freezer was often a tiny compartment at the top. But what the mid-century kitchen lacked in modern technology, it made up for in ingenuity. Housewives had a whole arsenal of clever tricks and tips, passed down through generations or shared in the pages of their favorite magazines. They knew secrets that seem almost magical today. To keep cakes from sticking, they would grease the pan with butter and then dust it with flour, tapping out the excess. To make whipped cream hold its shape longer, they used confectioner's sugar instead of granulated sugar. When peeling vegetables, they would spread newspaper on the counter to catch the scraps, making cleanup a breeze. They knew that adding a pinch of salt to egg whites would help them whip up faster. and that a few drops of lemon juice would keep sliced apples from browning. The art of timing was crucial in the mid-century kitchen. Without digital timers and temperature probes, housewives relied on their senses and experience. They could tell when bread was done by tapping the bottom of the loaf and listening for a hollow sound. They knew that fudge had reached the softball stage by dropping a bit into cold water and testing its consistency. They could judge the doneness of a roast by pressing it with their finger, feeling for the right amount of give. These were skills that took years to master, passed down from mother to daughter like precious heirlooms. Organization was key to managing the elaborate holiday meals. Color-coded tape was used to label different types of meat in the freezer. Shopping lists were carefully planned and organized by store layout. Recipes were tested weeks in advance, with notes scribbled in the margins about adjustments and improvements. The successful holiday hostess was part chef, part project manager, orchestrating a complex dance of preparation, timing, and presentation. It was a testament to their skill, their resourcefulness, and their dedication to their craft. So what can we learn from these holiday meals of the past? In an age of instant gratification and disposable everything, there's something to be said for the care and attention to detail that went into a mid-century holiday feast. It was a time when food was more than just fuel. It was a way to show love, to create memories, and to bring people together. The emphasis on presentation, on making every dish look as good as it tasted, is a reminder that beauty has a place at the table. The balance between homemade and convenience is a lesson in practicality, a reminder that it's okay to take shortcuts as long as the end result is delicious. Today we might scoff at the elaborate molded salads and the reliance on processed ingredients, but there's wisdom in the approach of the mid-century homemaker. They understood that hospitality was an art form, that making guests feel welcome and cherished was just as important as the food itself. They knew that a beautifully set table with matching china and carefully folded napkins could transform an ordinary meal into a special occasion. They appreciated the power of ritual and ceremony, the way that certain dishes could evoke memories and emotions that went far beyond taste. The planning and preparation that went into these meals is something we could all learn from today. In our world of last-minute grocery runs and takeout dinners, there's something to be said for the deliberate, thoughtful approach of the past. The mid-century hostess didn't just throw together a meal, she crafted an experience. She thought about the flow of the evening, the comfort of her guests, the harmony of flavors and textures. She understood that a successful dinner party was about more than just good food. It was about creating an atmosphere of warmth and welcome. Perhaps the most important lesson we can learn from the holiday meals of the 1950s and 60s is the importance of tradition. These were meals that were steeped in history with recipes that were passed down from generation to generation. They were a way of connecting with the past, of honoring the people and the places that came before. In our fast-paced, ever-changing world, there's something comforting and grounding about a tradition, about a dish that has been made the same way, with the same love for decades. The social aspect of these meals was just as important as the food. The holiday dinner was a time for families to come together, for stories to be shared, for bonds to be strengthened. The elaborate preparation wasn't just about showing off, it was about demonstrating love and care for the people who mattered most. The hours spent in the kitchen, the careful attention to every detail, was a labor of love that spoke louder than words ever could. The holidays are a time for looking back, for remembering the good old days. And what better way to do that than through the food that we eat? The vintage holiday meals of the 1950s and 60s may seem a little quaint, a little old-fashioned to our modern sensibilities, but they are also a reminder of a simpler time, a time when a home-cooked meal was the ultimate expression of love. So this holiday season, why not try a taste of the past? You might be surprised at how delicious nostalgia can be.